Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this WACH FOX special. I am Friendly Clairvaux. This special edition of WACH FOX, Palmetto Patriots, celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We are here live at the Veterans Memorial Park in downtown Columbia. Now, this afternoon, we will be highlighting our men and women who are on the front lines and those who have fought for our freedoms, and we want to highlight what they've done, what they continue to do all across South Carolina. Tonight on this special broadcast, you will hear from military leaders, you'll hear from veterans, different resources available for veterans, as well as different stories coming to them, how some overcame obstacles, how some are still making changes, and how many of these veterans are impacting South Carolina in such a great way. Plus, South Carolina is a place that veterans love to call home. Our Claire Foley is going to explain that in just a few moments. So we have a few tidbits for you tonight. So call your friends, call your loved ones, everybody, get them around YouTube, Facebook right now as we get into this special. Once again, we are here live at Veterans Memorial Park. And right now, I'm going to check in with my colleague, Claire Foley. Claire was out in the elements this morning. She enjoyed an event that took place today. Claire, what can you tell us?
Friendly, this isn't just an ordinary day for the people of Columbia and Greater Midlands region as a whole. It's a really special day for the folks here, and the celebrations of Veterans Day started early this morning with the annual Veterans Day parade. Take a look at this video right here. I was fortunate enough to be at the parade earlier this morning, where hundreds lined the streets of downtown Columbia for the city's annual Veterans Day parade. It's the 46th year that they've held what is the Southeast's largest Veterans Day parade. Walking in the parade were veterans, of course, but also ROTC programs from Midland schools, law enforcement and first responders, as well as state and local leaders. Lots of families who were off from school or work today watched along the sidewalks, decked out in their patriotic gear, waving flags. One family I spoke with says it's something the kids look forward to every year.
Freedom is very important for everything that we do, especially for the future. This is the future. We've done it for several years and we love it. This is their favorite parade, even over a Christmas parade.
It was a busy morning in downtown Columbia. Lots of folks out on Sumter Street this morning. And the Grand Marshal of the parade was Major General Van McCarthy. And Friendy, I hear he's going to be joining you later on in this special today. So I'll send it back to you for what is going to be a really important special.
All right, Claire, thank you so much for that. It's always a great time to celebrate our veterans with that Veterans Parade. I mean, everything shuts down in downtown Columbia for that. So that is definitely a great event that we took part in. Joining us now is the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs Veteran of the Year, Alvin King. Alvin, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Hey, it's always great to be around, Friendy.
Absolutely. Okay, so obviously today was a pretty busy day for you too, being a Veteran of the Year. Tell us what you had to do today.
Just going around to other local events here in the state of South Carolina, out in Blythewood this morning, and then Columbia, and then supporting an event down at the University of South Carolina.
So Alvin, tell us your story. When did you realize that the military was for you?
Actually, it's a funny story. I was in college and decided to, that college wasn't for me necessarily.
Okay.
And so I transitioned out of college and joined the military. Was looking to get out of New York. I'm originally from New York.
All right.
And so we're just looking to kind of start a new life. And so it was definitely an interesting space because, everybody pushes you got to go to college, you got to do that, like there's the
right,
you got it,
exactly.
And it just didn't work for me.
And for you, obviously, you started a new chapter in your life, joining the military, fighting on the front lines, literally, because you were at one point receiving some fire at one point too.
Oh, absolutely. I had the opportunity to deploy several times to Afghanistan as well as Iraq, and so in support of these operations, there's some things that go on, and so. But at the end of the day, the men and women that I served alongside of, it was amazing to have those. I mean, some of the best people that I've ever met.
Yeah. So you are the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs Veteran of the Year. So when you heard that title, when you were giving it to you, what was going on through your mind?
That's another funny story because it was, I'm the inaugural, so the first ever. And so I didn't even know it existed. And so when I got the call, I was like, okay, cool, gotta go. And they were like, hold on, we need to tell you, you have a press conference with the governor. You're going to be recognized at the University of South Carolina game. And I was like, oh, what'd you say this was again?
Right.
So I was like, let me get my phone out, get
Yeah.
the calendar. So it was just interesting because I just, like, I didn't understand the gravity to be
Yeah.
the state of South Carolina's first ever Veteran of the Year. It's humbling and an honor because there's hundreds of thousands of veterans that call South Carolina their home.
And you're definitely deserving of that award too. I know it's a nomination process, but because of what you experienced in the military, you started an organization for other veterans. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the organization Range for Hope we started about 4 years ago now was we wanted to use golf as therapy, and
Okay.
so the goal was to kind of not only for the service member but for their family as well. So anybody connected to that military member can come out and get services. And so the thought process was, what are you going to do? Like, would you do something more as an individual or as a collective?
Right.
And so, like, the support system that you need to sustain your life is, was the thought process behind why we started Range for Hope and why we offer these programs, these resources, these services to not only the veteran but the whole military community and their family.
So what does being a veteran mean to Alvin?
Wow, that's a great question. I think being a veteran, once again, I'm very humbled and very honored to serve 20 years. I deployed multiple times to multiple countries, multiple continents. And, to me, the common denominator was I met a lot of people. And so I got an opportunity to serve and to really not only work alongside some amazing people, but to meet some amazing people in other countries. And so being a veteran, like having that opportunity, as you know, statistically, less than 1/2% raise their hand and volunteer to serve in the United States military.
Yeah.
So that's 0.5. And so the other 99.5 really, support the military community, because if you kind of ran a poll and talked to the other 99, like everybody's impacted by military service.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Everybody knows someone. So as we're closing out, what are some things that you probably want to tell your other comrades in the armed forces? What would you like to tell them? We know there's a lot that you all deal with, many of you mentally, physically. What do you like to tell them?
I think the big thing that you always have to remember is you're not alone, right? And during these times, I think being awarded the award that I was, it kind of showcases veterans or military members thriving. And so, every time we hear about military, it's like the 22 completed suicides, the food insecurities, the homelessness. And so we have to let's lean into the other side of that, the veterans that are thriving in the community, that are starting nonprofits, that are giving back, working at their churches, doing, all these things that are out there. There's so many amazing resources, programs, and services that are out there that if you don't know about, get out there and research, get on Google, go to these different platforms where you can kind of find out about information, because there's so many other people just like me who are out there helping and serving their community.
We got 30 more seconds left. If someone wants to get in contact with you with Range for Hope, how do they get in contact with you?
The website's the quickest, fastest way, range4FORE hope.org, or any social media platform, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, it's range4FORE hope.
All right, Alvin King, the South Carolina Department Veteran Affairs Veteran of the Year. Thank you so much for your service.
Thanks,
and thank
Randy.
you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. And if for those of you who are just joining us, we are here live at Veterans Memorial Park, where we are having our special celebrating our veterans. Palmetto Patriots brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. And we just spoke with Alvin King, who was this year's Veteran of the Year. Well, last year's Veteran of the Year. Well, there is a new Veteran of the Year that's coming forward, happening this Wednesday, as a matter of fact. The South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs will announce this year's new Veteran of the Year. And if you could see that video, the picture here, this is the new Veteran of the Year. It is retired Army Command Sergeant Major Robert L. Clark of Blythewood. Now, the Veteran of the Year award serves as recognition to honor the remarkable contributions of veterans in our community. Now, we can tell you that Command Sergeant Major Clark will be honored during a ceremony Wednesday morning at 11 at the Dorn VA Auditorium. Clark will later be honored by Governor Henry McMaster during a private photo event at the South Carolina State House in early December. Now, the Veteran of the Year is selected by an internal selection committee from among the 4 veterans of the quarterfinalists through the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs. So, of course, you just heard from Alvin King, who won last year, who was the first inaugural. And, of course, coming up this week on Wednesday, we get a chance to meet somebody brand new. And once again, we are highlighting our servicemen and women for this WACH FOX special Palmetto Patriots celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. And joining us now, we have 2 big wigs here with us. We have Command Sergeant Major Eric Oaks, Fort Jackson Post Command Sergeant Major, and the South Carolina National Guard Major General Van McCarthy. Fellas, your microphones are right there with you all. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Friendy. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Definitely. Fort Jackson. All right. Obviously, major Army installation here in Columbia, but just about everyone who joins the military or the Army has to go through Fort Jackson. So, Command Sergeant Major, tell us about Fort Jackson and how you all prepare vets for the future. Absolutely.
I appreciate that. So, yes, Fort Jackson since 1973 has produced over 58% of American soldiers.
58%?
That's correct.
Wow.
So we've been here since 1917, training divisions for World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and now in 1975 we became the Army Training Center, focused mainly on basic combat training. And it's interesting, you know, since that time, right now we have the greatest population of young veterans since the Vietnam War. And almost 60% of them have come through Fort Jackson. Just shows the contribution of South Carolina and the Midlands.
That is massive. So when folks are telling stories and you hear them say Fort Jackson, they might be in Japan or somewhere, you're like, wow, you came here to South Carolina.
Absolutely, absolutely. They come from all over the world. You know, not just, you know, current U.S. citizens. Every week we graduate about 1,200 new soldiers, and about 10% of them get their citizenship during basic training, becoming not only American soldiers, but American citizens as well.
Take a look at that. South Carolina National Guard, Major General Van McCarthy, you know, a lot of people remember you from TV from the last 3 weeks for Hurricane Helene. Are you all there? But you all do more than just that. Talk to us about the National Guard.
Well, the National Guard is a unique organization in this country. We take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and we take an oath to defend the Constitution of the state of South Carolina or whatever state you're assigned to. And in that, we serve in a federal capacity of being the combat reserve for both the United States Army and the United States Air Force. In addition to that, our servicemen and women also respond into domestic type situations, and primarily we see the Guard out when we have bad weather, hurricanes, as through Hurricane Helene. Winter weather that hopefully we won't have this year.
Yes.
We also respond to potential civil unrest. So we have a dual mission that our soldiers and airmen both participate in, and do so, unfortunately, on the domestic side more than we would like, but we also have soldiers currently deployed not only here in the United States on the southwest border and up in the National Capital Region, but we just have a unit just arrived in Poland, and we have a unit getting ready to go overseas also. But our soldiers and airmen perform some very vital missions.
Wow. Major General Van McCarthy, what does it mean to be a veteran for you?
I look at it from the perspective of, first of all, having the opportunity to have served to something greater than yourself. Having an opportunity to, and I originally was commissioned to active duty service. I served 3 years on active duty. At that time, I'm not really sure that I quite understood the opportunities that would be there before me, nor really what it meant to serve your country and later to my state. But I think looking back on my service and having had the opportunity to reflect back on what I've seen a number of soldiers and airmen do, it makes you proud of having the opportunity, first of all, to be able to do that, and to be able to contribute back to the freedoms that we experience as citizens of this great nation, and to have the opportunity to be a part of, again, something greater than just yourself. But to that, it's also an opportunity to give back and to say thank you not only to our veterans, but to our veterans' families, to their wives, spouses, and children and family members.
You're right about that. Command Sergeant Major, obviously, once again, senior leadership over at Fort Jackson. So when you look out and you see those graduates, what does that do for you?
It makes me feel incredibly proud to be an American. Like I said, every week I get to see 1,200 graduating, showing what's best of our country from all walks of life, male, female, all races, all religions and creeds, coming together under a united purpose of defending our Constitution. And for me as a veteran, that's where I look at it, is giving back to this country who has given us so much, and taking that oath to defend the Constitution, keeping the peace of our nation, helping to keep the peace of the world. It makes me wake up happy every Thursday to see a graduation, and knowing once I retire, we have a generation coming behind us who will continue to carry that torch.
We have about a minute left, so we'll start with you, Major General Van McCarthy. Closing remarks, closing statements about Veterans Day.
Well, I had the opportunity this morning to serve as the Grand Marshal of the Veterans Day Parade here in Columbia.
Oh, big deal. He's a big guy over here.
It is one of the larger Veterans Day parades that we have in the Southeast. And it always does, I think, me good to see as many of our local citizens come out and support it. But a special point to me is our veterans that are in the audience that are there. Many of them are getting some age on them. But to see them stand and see them render a salute is something that is touching. And I'm also very proud also to see all the young people that are out along the parade grounds. I think it is important that our younger generations understand what service to state and nation means and the sacrifice that's been made by others for them to enjoy the privilege of living in a country like we have.
Absolutely. Command Sergeant Major, 30 more seconds left. What would you like to say?
Absolutely. I'd just like to say thank you to all of our veterans, whether they served in war or served in peacetime. Every veteran volunteered to put their life on their line to defend our Constitution. I'd really like to highlight our female veterans. It took my wife reminded me this morning, she is a veteran herself, and oftentimes we neglect our female veterans, so I just want to thank all veterans for their service.
And gentlemen, thank you so much for your service. And speaking of that, as a matter of fact, female veterans, we're actually getting ready to air a story about female veterans. Our Clara Faith actually introduces us to some of the first women who started serving at Fort Jackson.
Steve Newman is a creator at the U.S. Army Base Combat Training Museum in Columbia, and he knows the full history of the first woman to serve at Fort Jackson.
Women first came to Fort Jackson. The Women's Auxiliary Army Corps came to Fort Jackson in April of 1943. 133 ladies were assigned here to Fort Jackson.
And amongst those women was technician 5th grade Lita Priest. She enlisted in the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps in 1943 and was sent to Fort Jackson during World War II.
She was assigned to work at Post Library Number 2 to free up a man to go and to fight. And she served as part of the Special Services. She actually went on a recruiting tour throughout the southern states.
And women like her helped pave the way for women today in the military.
I joined the military at the age of 17, and what made me want to join was my family.
Meet Sergeant Mara Parks. She has served in the Air Force for 15 years. She tells me she's proud of how women's roles have evolved over the last decade.
Females did a lot of the administrative roles. It is no longer like that. We have female pilots, we have female aircraft mechanics, we have female security guards. When you come into the gate, you'll see a female holding a gun now. You never know unless you try. And I would also point out, like I said myself, I did it. I'm a living witness that you can be a female and you can get through basic training and you can literally do all that you want to do.
That was our Clara Faith there with that story about the women in the military. We know that many of them facing obstacles and overcoming many obstacles in the military at a time where it was difficult for them to join. Well, joining us right now is retired Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Starks Legree. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Legree, for being here. Okay, right. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. I am so glad to be here and to sit and chat for just a minute about being a veteran.
Yes. So when did you first realize that, okay, you know what, I want to go into the military?
Well, you know, believe it or not, it really was not my intent to join the military.
Okay.
But then when I realized that, hey, I needed some money to go to college.
Yeah.
Boom, there it was, the military. So I initially joined, as a vehicle for financing my college tuition.
So what was it like? You joined, was it eye-opening for you as a female?
It was, because it made me feel as though I could be part of something that was bigger than myself, and that I can join forces with others who were like me, who were not like me, who were, I would say, a little better than I was, and I wanted to get to that point to where they were.
Wow.
So it made me felt good inside to know that I could be part of an organization that can take me to the next level.
So what was your specialty in the military?
My specialty in the military was, actually, I was a logistician.
Okay.
Quartermaster officer.
All right.
I started out on the enlisted side as a quartermaster soldier.
Okay.
I went to South Carolina State University, go Bulldogs.
Okay, so here locally, all right.
Yes, I got commissioned there in 1993.
Wow,
And I initially
okay.
joined like I said earlier, as an enlisted soldier in 1987. My parents had to sign for me to join the military.
What was that conversation like? Dad, Mom, I'm going to the military.
Well, it wasn't a problem for Dad because he too served.
Oh, okay.
Mom, it was a little iffy. I'm the youngest of 3, was 7 total with my dad.
Wow, okay.
And so it was a little difficult for Mom, but believe it or not, she enjoyed the ride.
Take us back to some of the points that you remember that stands out the most in your service. Maybe a deployment, maybe helping folks here domestically. What stands out the most?
What stands out the most of my service is that I had the ability to lead not only soldiers, but also civilians.
Wow.
And when you look back and you realize that you're a part of an organization where you get to touch not only a soldier, but you also get to touch a civilian. And when you join forces, that's a great feeling and a great place to be in.
Wow. How about leadership roles for you? We know sometimes we've heard stories where it's been difficult for females to go up in the ranks. What was that like for you?
Yes, it has been very challenging. I always live by a motto: there is no challenge too great. I look back and I could say that if they can, I can too. So when you have that motivation, that drive and determination to move forward, it's all on you. It doesn't matter what others may say, what others may think of you, as long as you do you to get to the next level.
There it is.
Everything will work itself out.
So how about now in the military, we see a number of women who are joining. We see a number of women that are being a part. You, as a retired officer, you helped to pave that way for many of them.
Absolutely. I, along with others, so I have to give them their kudos as well. I would just, really point out, don't give up. Be who you are. Whether it be you're a female, whether it be you're a male, we're all the same. We wear the uniform. We're there for one mission, and that is to serve our country.
Wow. So how long did you serve?
I served a total of 32 years, 6 years as a reservist, and 26 years of active duty.
Do you miss it sometimes?
I do. I mean, it feels really good today to, to still be able to fit my uniform, having retired, 4 years ago.
Wow, okay.
And so I do miss it. I mean, but I still have connection, with others whom I've served with. I mean, we do keep in contact, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And so when you build relationships and you network, that makes it all the best, because you can reach back. I call it a reach back capability.
Reach back, okay.
Reach back.
All right.
I can reach back. If something comes up, I got a problem that I can't solve, I can reach back, knowing that I have someone, a battle buddy, a fellow soldier, that I can reach back to.
So what do you tell a young woman who might be in high school, JROTC, getting ready to graduate? What do you tell them as they are trying to figure out, should I continue into my military career?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. I would tell that young lady, if they can, you can too. Don't think twice about it. If it's there, it will resonate on the inside. Don't be afraid to take on the next step. Wow. There may be some fear, but we can overcome fear. We can overcome obstacles. We can overcome challenges, because there is no challenge too great.
So what is, so we're talking to you, and of course, everybody, for those of you that are just joining us right here, we are here live at the Veterans Memorial Park in downtown Columbia, where we are highlighting our men and women for their service on this Veterans Day. We like to give people their flowers. I know one thing that my dad always says is that, you don't wait till when somebody's gone to say thank you. You let them know thank you ahead of time. And so we're telling you thank you. We're telling everybody else here thank you as well. Take us back to maybe a point in time where you were a soldier, or maybe deployment or so. What was that like, seeing fighting for your country in another place?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question as well. You know, as a deployed soldier, I deployed twice to Iraq, twice to Afghanistan, and to be, you know, amongst the ranks and there to not only look at it from a perspective of being deployed, but when you're there in the midst of everything that's going on and you're able to connect with the local nationals there.
Wow,
and to be of service not only to the United States soldiers, but those local national soldiers as well. And just to realize that we all as one, we're all there to defend, point blank. It does not matter whether we were a U.S. soldier, we were there helping to defend that local national country and to do just what we were there to do.
Wow. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Starks, before we head on out, anything else that you want to add and tell our viewers on this on this Veterans Day?
Yes, I would say thank you for your service. Thank you to my fellow sisters and brothers, you know, who are at arms. And I would tell those who are considering joining the military, do so. Don't let anything and nothing stop you. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have made that ultimate sacrifice. We've served, we've done our due diligence, and it feels great to be a United States veteran.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Starks, thank you so much for your service and thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And everyone, again, we are here live. This is a WACH FOX special where we are celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We're here at the Veterans Memorial Park, where so far we've talked to a number of veterans. We've talked to someone representing Fort Jackson. We've talked with a representative from the South Carolina National Guard. And also we got a chance to speak with the veteran of the year, and our Claire Foley is standing by. We know that Claire Foley has been researching and digging deep into what makes South Carolina so military friendly. She joins us now here. Claire, what can you tell us?
Friendy, at the top of the show, I said how much this Veterans Day holiday means to the folks here in the Midlands, and it's one thing for me to say it, but it's a completely other thing to hear it from the veterans and the veterans advocates you've been speaking with so far this evening. But for the folks at home, I wanted to provide some numbers about the presence and impact of the veterans here in the Midlands. According to the 2022 census, more than 300,000 veterans called South Carolina home. It's also home to the largest U.S. Army military training base in Fort Jackson. The Midlands specifically is the has the second largest population of veterans in all of South Carolina. And because of all of this, that's why the city of Columbia has deemed Columbia as a Purple Heart City. And what that means is that they recognize the efforts and contributions of veterans who were either injured or killed in war. And that's why we're here in Memorial Park today. We're surrounded by different examples of how the city of Columbia has honored those who have put it all on the line for our country. And in terms of the economic impact of it, just here in the Midlands, between veteran active employees, Department of Defense, any sort of military involved employment, just in the Midlands, that contributes $6.6 billion to the state of South Carolina. Friendy?
And welcome back, everybody. We are here live at the Veterans Memorial Park, where we are definitely having a great time. WACH FOX's Palmetto Patriots celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We just talked with a retired Lieutenant Colonel a few seconds ago, and now joining us now with the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs, we have Jelani Edwards and Miss Patricia Worthingly. Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. Jelani, and we'll get to you, Jelani, first. We know that there are a number of programs that you all have for the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs. Many times we hear of veterans and people always wonder, why is it that they're not getting the help that they need? What's the red tape? What is going on? Talk to us about your resources, such as the Palmetto Pathfinder program.
Yeah, so Friendy, thank you for having us on today.
Yeah.
And to every veteran in the sound of my voice, I'd like to say thank you for your service from the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs. Now let's talk the South Carolina Veteran Coalition and Palmetto Pathfinder. The coalition, powered by Combined Arms, has over 110 organizations designed to help our veterans thrive throughout the state of South Carolina. Now, our Palmetto Pathfinders is a phenomenal program that was designed about 3 years ago, and any military organization you go to, whether it's the Marines, Air Force, everyone has a battle buddy. This program is designed to be a peer-to-peer mentor for a battle buddy system, and what that battle buddy does, it assists that veteran through the process to help that veteran to thrive, right? So the process goes like this. Veteran who is having a tough time finding job, employment, resume writing, different resources, they get on the SCDVA website. After that, they create something called a profile. Once they complete that profile, then it will go to the team at the South Carolina Veteran Coalition. The team from the South Carolina Veteran Coalition will then look at all the possible resources that can help that veteran thrive. Once that veteran receives that email with all the resources, then that's when we activate a Palmetto Pathfinder. They come out and they walk with their fellow veteran, and all of our Palmetto Pathfinders are all mostly veterans as well. So they get an opportunity to have a battle buddy to walk them through the process, right? So from center to shooter, that's exactly what they do.
And someone who understands them, like you said, a battle buddy. So kind of going off of for those of that fought in the front lines, and here we go again, fighting for them in their future, basically.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, being here in the great state of South Carolina, it has been absolutely amazing to help our veterans thrive. Our veterans deserve it, and our veterans need it. And I'm very appreciative for this day.
Miss Patricia Worthingly, you also, let's focus on the benefits, because that's one of the major things. A lot of times we often hear people are going to the VA, for instance, and it's like 6 months, 7 months. They haven't heard anything, and they're really getting upset, which I can understand. So let's start off with benefits first. And there's a helicopter coming up, so you can put your microphone really close up. So benefits, there's a veteran who's watching right now. I need benefits.
Yes.
Help me out.
Yes, so again, as Jelani said, thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
But benefits is very important to our veterans, and sometimes it can be very life-changing.
Yeah.
You take a veteran that was sitting at 0%, that had been waiting and waiting and waiting for just the VA to recognize their sacrifices and the problems that they now are enduring every day medically. And so now you get that veteran, even at a 10% rating, that veteran is getting paid at least $171 a month, and they can now be treated for that benefit. But on a broader scope, if you take a veteran that's what's considered permanent and total, and that veteran's 100%, that veteran is
disabled. Is that 100%?
Disabled.
Okay,
that's correct.
right.
Yes. Then that veteran is making an Essex of $3,000 a month. That is very life changing for a veteran.
Absolutely.
And if a veteran is permanent total, they have property tax exemption on 2 vehicles, as well as their primary residential property if they like to hunt or fish, or that's maybe something that is a coping mechanism for that veteran. Those licenses are free for that veteran as well. And then there's benefits for their children on the educational scope, both at the federal and at the state level.
Okay. That's got great information there. So the claims process, take me through it. I'm veteran, Friendly Clairvaux, Marine, I need some help. What's the claims process like? I don't know what to do.
So the claim process, you can either go on va.gov and file the claim yourself, which as a veteran service organization rep and a state employee who does claims, I highly recommend you do not try to navigate those waters alone, because VA waters could be very hard to navigate. Now, they've done a lot to streamline the process. But if you've never filed a claim and not understanding what you can file a claim for, it can be very hard. So I highly recommend, if you're that veteran that's out there and you've never filed a claim before and you just don't know where to start, contact your local veteran service organizations that's out there. There are many, many organizations that's out there that provides the service for free of charge to veterans. There are some that charge veterans, but try to stick with the ones that's highly accredited by what's called Office of General Counsel. And those services should be free. And do not hesitate to ask, are you an accredited rep? Because you want to make sure that Private Friendly, now veteran friendly, gets to someone that knows what they're doing and that they're an accredited rep and they've been through the training, the proper training.
That's important. You wanted to add something to that, Jelani?
Yes, she does an amazing job. Pat is absolutely amazing. But I'll tell you something else. So each county has a county veteran affairs officer, which every veteran get an opportunity to meet and greet, because they will assist you with your benefits. And they do a phenomenal process from start to finish, and the veterans are taken care of every time they go in. So if you are a veteran, I highly encourage you to go to your county Veteran Affairs office as well.
Absolutely.
It's one of the also factors, and we have to talk about this too, some veterans, unfortunately, when they come back, and many times they need assistance mentally.
Yes.
We see the visible scars, but there are invisible scars for a lot of them.
Absolutely.
And many times I hear that veterans, they kind of don't want to come out and get the help because they don't want to be marked, or they don't want people to look at them as if they're no good anymore. Speak to that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, that stigma no longer exists. You know, that's why we have the website for that veteran to go into the coalition, because we have resources galore but the number one resource is the VA at Dorn Medical Center. The VA, we have a lot of providers that will take the time to assist our veterans that are in need mentally. All right.
And how about for those who may need other assistance, such as housing, for instance? Maybe sometimes, depending on what has transpired, it's difficult for them to find a job. Speak to that veteran.
So, South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs, we also have a housing coordinator that works with many various agencies, to include the Austin Wilkes Society, as well as our federal counterparts with available housing for veterans. They also work with transitions a lot to make sure that if those veterans want to come in, pretty much, you know, and not be homeless, then those resources are out there for veterans as well.
Okay. So, Jelani, to that, the South Carolina Veteran Coalition, I know you touched on it a little bit, but kind of expand a little bit more about that coalition. We talk about a group of individuals from every different branch of the military.
Yes. A veteran is a veteran, right? Whether you've served one day or you served over 30 years, a veteran is a veteran. And in saying that, the South Carolina Veteran Coalition, we have the 110 resources, but they're all free resources to our veterans, right? So when our coalition,
so free, one more time,
absolutely free.
Okay.
So once our veteran gets on the website and they fill out their profile, they will get at least 3 to 5 resources to help them, along with that Palmetto Pathfinder that we talked about earlier.
And so, Miss Patricia, back to the benefits part of everything and the claims process as well. How can that process be cut in short, if you would, if there's a thing?
So to be completely transparent, there's no shortcut to it.
All right.
Now, you can have what you call a fully developed claim, but that means that veteran has gone out, did all of the resources, they putting together all of the medical documentation, the supporting documentation, and when the VA, U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs developer gets that claim, they can kind of essentially check the box and make sure all of the supporting documentation is there. And in that sense, then the process is a little shorter, because it, you know, slows down the developmental time that U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs wish to have, because they also want to give every veteran the benefit of the doubt. And our partners on the federal side want to do their due diligence to see if they can retrieve medical records for those veterans on their behalf. So it's a win-win, but there's no real shortcut
when it comes to that. Jelani, so the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs is huge all across the Palmetto State. And, you know, Governor McMaster touts South Carolina as a military-friendly state. And you get to work with those veterans.
Absolutely. So my job, my position in South Carolina Veteran Affairs is the Midlands Regional Integration Officer. So I have 11 counties from Aiken to York. And my job primarily is to go out and find resources for our veterans. So I don't even look at my position as a job. I'm helping fund because I'm passionate about what I do, and I've always said I was a servant leader. And so I'm getting the opportunity to serve our veterans in a different space. And so it's nothing like seeing a veteran, you know, get assisted and smile and just say thank you. Those two words, because those two words go a long way.
Agreed.
How about the psychological need help that some of the veterans may have? Some of them may not know where to start or where to go. Speak to that.
Yeah, that is true. We do have a lot of veterans out there that are suffering psychologically. But again, Jelani talked about our Pathfinder program. I love our Pathfinder program. I'm personally not a Pathfinder, but I'm a veteran. And so
thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's Jelani, my battle buddy.
Okay.
So every opportunity that I get to speak, I talk about our Pathfinder program because it is essentially that battle buddy. And sometimes veterans want that individual that's been through some of what they've gone through or can understand, and they speak the language that our veterans speak, so they don't find themselves having to necessarily explain when they say they were hit by an IED explosion or you know their battle buddy was injured in a rollover, because we speak the language regardless of your branch of service. You speak the language. So having that battle buddy, Palmetto Pathfinder, to walk you through and go to a county veteran affairs office and say, can you help my battle buddy? He needs some help. This is what he's been going through. How can we get a claim going for him? And then those resources are there. And our counties, they have reach back capability to our office as well. And we are co-located, my office is co-located with U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So if there's something that we can't do on the state side, we are very fortunate and we are very grateful and appreciative of our relationship with our battle buddies on the federal side.
Oh, Jelani Edwards and Patricia Worthington of the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs. And thank you all both for what you've done in your service as well. We really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much. For those of you that are just joining us, this is Watch Fox's a special edition of Palmetto Patriots, celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We are here live at the Veterans Memorial Park. We've been talking to a number of veterans, military leaders, and getting a whole lot of information and honoring our servicemen and women for all that they have done and all that they continue to do. Of course, we also have our Watch Fox's Claire Foley, who is standing by. She's been giving us some great tidbits and information about the military in South Carolina. Let's check in with her again. Hey, Claire.
Friendy, I mentioned before the efforts of city officials to distinguish Columbia as a Purple Heart city. And of course, we see that here in Memorial Park as a whole, but it's also been a contribution that the city has held special reverence to on Veterans Day specifically. The statue here behind me depicts a U.S. sailor. It's specifically dedicated to the men and women who served in the U.S. Navy in World War II, and it was actually dedicated 10 years ago today on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2014. Friendy?
All right, and again, as we promised, we are here live at the Veterans Memorial Park in downtown Columbia. We have a variety of guests that we're talking to, and this next guest here, I have been waiting to meet him. He is a Vietnam veteran. Wow, I can't wait to hear what he has to say, coming from the South Carolina Combat Veterans Group, Commander Tommy Olds, veteran, a Vietnam veteran. Commander, you go ahead and take your microphone right over there, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Vietnam veteran.
Yes,
and we also have Ms. Jennifer Smith, Vice Commander of the U.S. Army as well. Thank you so much for being here. So let's get straight to you, Commander. Take us back to when you decided to join the military.
Well, I'm going to take you back to when I was drafted.
Okay, yes.
I didn't volunteer to go in the military, but I'm glad that I did. I was drafted. In 1967, I was drafted by the United States government. In January 68, I went to Vietnam. And so that was a 8 months transition. It was a lot that had to go through during that time and during my training. But getting to Vietnam and that training was well needed. And so it was a difficult time for me. I was only 19 years of age. I was the oldest in my family. And I had dropped out of school when I was in the 7th grade.
Wow.
And so I became a candidate for the draft. And when I first went into the military, I thought it was something I really didn't want to do, because some of my community neighbors that had served in Vietnam before I was drafted were coming home.
Microphone a little closer, Commander.
Disabled,
yeah, there you go. Okay.
Having issues and problems. And I was determined that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So I really was against the walking and stuff. But after going to Vietnam and serving and coming back home, going through the process of going through combat, going through the theater, over and over again, seeing death and all the things I was experiencing. It just would be 19 years old, just too overwhelming.
Wow.
And but when I left Vietnam, thinking that coming back home I'd be a hero, And getting back home, I was really disappointed to find out that I was not a hero. I was a zero. And I was a zero because I had fought in a war that was not popular in this country. And by doing this, I was mistreated, disrespected. And many of us were done like that. And but that time has passed. It got over. Now it's time we're getting appreciation. I'm so glad to be with WACH today.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a pleasure, privilege, to be here, to have the opportunity to speak.
Absolutely,
and so I'm looking forward to this interview.
Man, so combat veteran, take us through your time in Vietnam.
Okay. I went in the country on January the 14th, 1968.
Right.
In history, that's the first day of the Tet Offense, which was the most deadly part of the war that we had. For several months, that offense went on. I went in the country on that day, and when I got there, I was trying to go up in the mountains to Chulai, and the platoon I ended up going to had been attacked that day, and they lost over 30 soldiers, and they needed replacements. So I was up to 20th one that was counted out to go get on the cattle truck to go to Long Binh, and so I made it by one, but it was a gift. It was a blessing in a sense. And when I got on the cattle truck and we started to pull off in the base, the sky lit up with fireworks. I thought it was fireworks and firecrackers. I said, wow, they're having a parade for us. And really what happened, the Viet Cong that blew up the ammo dump.
Whoa.
And so at that time I was in a delusion out there, like watching war movies on TV, the streams going through that. But then shortly after that, we were attacked. And I knew it was the real deal there. And matter of fact, the truck that I was on got hit by special sniper fire. We had to dismount the truck. And when I jumped off the truck, got on the ground, the first thing I could remember to do was what my grandma told me, just pray.
I know that's
and
right.
I prayed, and I made it back home.
Look at you now.
Yeah, look at me now. God is good.
Don't start nothing combat.
Yeah, man. I'm getting ready to preach for
it. When you think about the goodness of God, that does a lot of good stuff.
It does.
So over the years, here you are sharing your story and letting other people know about what you've done. And being a combat veteran, I know that there are scars that people see and some scars people don't see. How have you been able to deal with that over the years, sir?
Let me tell you, when I came home, I was 20 years of age.
Yeah.
I got married when I was 21. When they released me from the military, they weren't doing things back then, doing psychological evaluation and all that kind of stuff. They just turned you loose. Yeah. And I came back to Fort Jackson in January of 69. In August, I ETS from the military, and I was so glad to get out. My duffel bag full of all my military stuff. I left it at the bus stop at Fort Jackson. Because I don't want to have nothing to do with the military. Gotcha. Nothing else to do with that. And I went into Columbia and went to work for the Red Cross for 38 years. And during that time, I was two people. Not knowing I was two people because I was a person that had to be in the public. Yeah. So I had to put on a facade that I was okay. But I didn't know something really was wrong. All I knew that I would get angry real quick. And I couldn't understand why I was getting angry so quick and why I would blow up so quick. And I got married. And when I got married, it had an impact on my wife and on my children. And at that time, I thought it was her that had the problem with, but it really was me, and I didn't know it until I went into the VA for treatment. Wow. And I didn't go into the VA system until 2007. Because,
that's a long time.
Yeah. So I had over 40 years of living with combat PTSD, going through these dreams and these thoughts in my mind and in my spirit that I could be harmful to somebody. I was really dangerous, but God kept me, and He kept the people around me. But I did a lot of harm to a lot of people because I didn't know that my behavior, when I didn't have it in control. I was young then too. When you're young and you stay active, it helps you. I was young and I stayed active. I played softball. I played sports. I had a good job, and I mingled with people all the time, so I stayed active. But when that time was over, when I got by myself, when I got in my home, I could be me. And when I got in my home, I was not me. I was a monster. I was a killer. See, I was programmed by the military and trained by the military to kill, but not to live. They wanted me to survive, to come home, but how I came home in a box or came home disabled, it might have mattered, but to me it didn't matter. Because the killing that they did, what they did to me and what they did to veterans and those that served in the armed forces, in basic training, they train you. And they use a type of system like brainwash you, constantly left, right, following commands, left, right, left, kill Charlie, singing songs talking about killing, and then being terrorized by this soldier, drill sergeant who was training us. And they was training us a way to protect us, and using hostility and anger and threats and scaring you half to death. So we went through a lot of that. So I was fearful, but I was scary. But they used techniques like waking you up out of your sleep with noises and doing different things, frightening. So, but that was just to get that anger gene in me to come out, so that when I'm on the battlefield,
and you could get ready.
When I see this is what the person get the Medal of Honor. They are heroes, truly. Don't get
Yes.
me wrong. But what happened is that when they see something that make them angry, they run to the fight.
Wow.
And that's how soldiers are trained. They train to go to the fight. And so if they get in an argument with somebody, they go to a killer mode. If somebody pass you in a car and throw the finger up at you or curse at you or do something crazy, your patience, you lose your patience, you go on attack.
Gotcha.
And so if you get in a conversation with somebody and then you having a conversation, you start attacking them. And I didn't know what was going on. I always had a sharp tongue, but I didn't know what was going on with me.
We're going to hold on some more,
Okay.
Commander, because
All
we're
right.
going to bring you back during our 5 o'clock. We definitely want to talk some more about our Vietnam veteran and all that he has transpired. Commander Tommy Oles, thank you so much for being here. But again, we're going to come back with you in 10 more minutes, right? Going to come back in 10 more minutes. But before that, we're going to go ahead and transition over. We do have some more people that we're going to talk to. For those of you that are just joining us, this is Watch Fox's special edition of Palmetto Patriots, celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We had the luxury and opportunity to talk to a number of veterans and military leaders this afternoon, and you are in for a treat. For those of you all that are joining us on our social media platforms, on YouTube, Facebook, and our website at watch.com, we appreciate it and we thank you so much. And of course, that we're going to continue this special into our 5 o'clock hour. For those of you all that can't stay online, but hey, you can go ahead and check us on channel 57, or depending on whatever cable provider that you do have. And of course, now joining me now, we do have some more individuals who are here in the house representing Shaw Air Force Base, Colonel Kevin Highcock, and then we also have Marine Corps Recruiting Station out of Columbia, Commanding Officer Major Nicholas Gray. Fellas, you all can pick up your microphones. Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. Thank you so much. Want to start off with you, Colonel, from Shaw Air Force Base. Wow. Many times when people think of veterans, they think military, they think Army and Marines, but nobody really thinks about the Air Force. Tell us about the Air Force, sir.
Well, I'm biased, but I love the Air Force on there. No, it's an exciting place over at Shaw right now.
Yeah.
On there, we got 4,500-ish folks over there, 79 F-16s on the flight line. Busy place. Have some folks over in the Pacific right now, so our thoughts are with them out there forward, doing some good work on there. But it's everybody has their calling for different services on there. Mine was the Air Force, and it's been a great ride so far.
All right, so we get to our Marine here, Commanding Officer Major Nicholas Gray. Thank you so much for your service, sir. You are at the Marine Corps Recruiting Station in Columbia. Tell us about the process of getting folks to join to become a veteran.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go through a process called the military entrance process that they have to go through, and they have to meet the basic qualifications to get an ASVAB score, as well as meet the minimums for the physical fitness test, same as all the branches. So those two are two major hurdles they have to get through to join the military ranks.
Gotcha. What does it mean to be a Marine?
So for me and all the other Marines out there, the reason that I went into the Marine Corps was for the warrior spirit of it, right? The Marines are centered in tradition, and the warrior spirit, the warrior mindset is the code that we live by. Every Marine is a rifleman, and that's something we instill in our junior Marines. We're known as the nation's 911 force in readiness and ready to deploy at a moment's notice around the globe whenever the nation needs us.
I have a family member who's actually a Marine for 8 years, and he was at Captain Leatherneck as well. So every time I see a Marine, I think about him all the time. Thank you again for your service. Shaw Air Force Base, you know, the Air Force, the F-16s, that's what everybody thinks about a whole lot of times. What are some other things that you want people to know about airmen?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things is seeing all the folks that put in the effort to actually get those airplanes airborne. And there's a ton of airmen that are hoofing on a daily basis to get that machine in the air on that one. You a lot of times just see the airplane itself, but a large portion of our folks are super innovative. Work really hard to keep the airplane flying. As it's gotten older in age, they've come up with some super creative ways to keep it flying, keep it a fighting force for America. So super proud of them. And they're super positive too. That's what I've always found is fun working with airmen, is they come into the job and they love what they do, and they're excited to be part of the Air Force.
Commanding Officer Major Gray, what does it mean to be a veteran?
To me, it means looking back at the sacrifices that they've made for our country and our nation. And for the new generation coming up, looking back at those are the individuals that stormed the beaches, jumped out of the aircraft to give us the freedoms that we have today. So something that near and dear to my heart, and I know all the veterans out there. I just want to thank them.
There might be someone who might be watching and they're on the fence. They're like, you know, I want to be Marine. Maybe I do something else. What do you tell them to become a Marine?
Yeah, so I tell them first and foremost, no matter where you are in life, sit down, reach out to one of the local recruiters. Let them give you the information and let you make the best decision for you in your life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Colonel, so we got about a minute left. So your message to our veterans who are watching.
I'd echo the Major here as far as just saying thank you to all the veterans out there. The calling to serve is a unique one, and I had the opportunity to see a bunch of veterans today, and for all of them out there, it's an honor to stand on their shoulders. They came before us. They did all the work that has gotten us to where we are today. And so just happy to serve alongside of them. You know, even those when they've taken off the uniform, a lot of them still serve in a lot of leadership realms throughout the community, and just proud to have inherited their heritage.
Thank you, Shaw Air Force Base, Colonel Kevin Highcock, as well as Commanding Officer Major Nicholas Gray. Thank you all, gentlemen, so much for being here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service as well. We really do appreciate it. And we know that a lot of people that are watching are thankful that you all took the time out to answer our invitation and to come. So we really appreciate it from Watch Fox. Thank you again, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Everyone, we want to thank you so much for joining this special broadcast here at Watch Fox. But we're not done yet. Coming into the 5 o'clock hour, we will continue our conversation on this Veterans Day. Watch Fox's Palmetto Patriots celebrating our veterans, brought to you by Palmetto State Armory. We're going to learn some more. We're going to come back and talk with our Vietnam veteran, Commander Tommy Olds. We're going to hear more about his story as well. And then the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs, they're coming back to let us know some more resources for veterans. You know that some of you all want to know what do you need when it comes to benefits, the claims process. They're going to be here to talk about that as well. And Fort Jackson, of course, the major training installation here in the Midlands, and the one that so many people in the Army have to stop by and visit and to take a part of. We're going to have them back on to talk about that as well. So for now, we want to say thank you so much for joining us, and of course, we will continue back shortly.